We set the clear intention that the space be wholly and completely and forever protected, and that only those who stand in their wholeness and in service to unity and clarity be allowed into this space as we make this prayer. We set the clear intention that the story not only served Gina, but also her family, her friends, her ancestors, and her descendants in all of their forms. And we take this prayer and we place it on the storyteller's prayer. That may all the words that need to be heard be spoken. And may all the words that need to be spoken be heard. Take this prayer and we place it into the heart and drop it down through this body, down into the earth, down to the very core of this planet. And this bright yellow comes up. It's like woof! It's like a, it's like a oil spill, or just this wild light, bright yellow light is coming up, very forceful, very strong, going straight up, very activating also in the second chakra, third chakra, just the whole thing. And then it's going into this blue planet, and this blue energy is coming up. It's telling me that it's Neptune energy, connected to like almost in relation to Jupiter energy. So allowing that to come up, it's a much softer, slower flowing energy coming up. And then it's going into, it's connecting to Mars, but it's doing something, your story is doing something so funny. It's merging all these planets, and it's Mars and Venus together. And so it's actually this very soft, it's like this very energizing pink that's coming up, and allowing that to come up through you. Going all the way up to spirit. We begin this story standing in the flame itself. It's as if we are in the flame of a great big candle. And in the center of the flame, there is one wick, and yet the flame itself holds the energies of many coming together. And there is a dance that's happening in this flame. There is a great dance. And it's the dance between two beings with their arms wrapped around each other, their shoulders touching, their ears touching, as they are so wrapped so closely, as if they are one being danced by the flame, or perhaps they are the flame dancing the wick. Who's to tell where one begins and where one ends? And that flame went like that for quite some time, and the candle began to melt. And it melted and it melted, and the flame danced on, and the wax melted, and the flame danced on, and the wax melted all the way down through the night and into the morning. And just in that moment, when the sun began to peek its head across the horizon, the wax disappeared and was all gone. And so that flame went out. They say a great scream happened through the universe when the union and the unity of that which all that was separated. And they say one jumped into the flame of the sun as she was rising, and one jumped into the moon as he was setting. And in that way, the separation began, as one moved across the sky in one direction, and the other, as one brought light into the day, and the other brought light into the night. And very rarely were they in the same place at the same time. Only a few times a year could they meet on the opposite horizons, able to see each other, able to be near each other. And they say the call of longing that went into the universe ricocheted off the stars, and the song would go from one star to another, bringing them together into these great constellations. Ayo, 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 ayo. And so this song of longing just went around and around and around. It was so powerful. It began to have a gravitational force all its own. And the moon was like, I've got to get back to the earth. I've got to find a way to be reunited with my kindred, with my kin, with my one. And the moon, like there were certain laws of the universe, though, and it couldn't leave the sky. For if it left the sky, everything would die. This is great responsibility. There was just no doing it. But the moon found a way where if position herself in such a way where over a body of water, a piece of could live in the reflection. And so it began to send a sacred whisper, a secret, through the universe, through those constellations, like a pinball through the sky, following the lines back to the sun, saying, meet me there. Bring your reflection to my reflection, and we can dance in the depths again. And so the sun found that lake where the moon was being reflected, and the sun positioned herself in such a way where she was able to reflect herself into the same lake, into the same place, and in that way they began to touch. It wasn't like it was before. It was about reflections and projections. It was about meeting in the same place at the same time. There was a linear relationship to the landscape that neither of them had been particularly prone to or fond of before. And while they were together in the same place at the same time, it was just a piece of them that they were throwing out into this other place. It just didn't feel as good. But it was what they had. They say 10 long years went by, or was it 10 weeks, or was it 10 days, or 10 months, or 10 seconds? No one knows for sure, but this much we know is true, that a great green grass began to fill in. The places where there was once water, where there was once a lake, was no longer. Now there was a great big field of grass. And it was the funniest thing, because all of that shining down in that water, that sense of projections, that sense of reflection, that sense of presence and longing and desire, all of that meeting at the same time, at the same place, in the same day, at the same location, it all began to add up, and fragments and pieces and true aspects of their spirit and their soul were placed into that place. And so when the ground began to come, and when the grass began to grow, and when others came round walking on that place, walking the electricity of their lifeblood on that place, speaking with the resonance, the course of life itself through them. And when there was a resonance, a rightness, a kind of similar longing, something began to happen. And no one can explain it perfectly true. It's as if two hands began to grow out of the earth, where tulips or flowers might have been. And not just two hands, but four hands. And there, true enough, two beings, two humans, two two-leggeds, two great spirit beings made of crystalline white light, one of blue, one of pink, one of purple, one of gold, one of green, one of blue. They grew from the earth, and they stood right there, not fully separate from where they'd come from, for their feet were solidly there in one place. And while they couldn't move, and no one knows exactly why they couldn't move, but in this moment in the story, there was no moving, there was no walking. They could lean in towards each other, into that embrace that they had known so long ago, with their shoulders to shoulders, and their heads and their ear to ear. And they began to hum. They say the moon came round and shined its light on them, and the sun warmed them. And somehow when the rain came, they began to step towards each other and step towards each other and step toward each other and step toward each other until they were one. It was a bit shocking to be true. Extremely shocking. For a while, a few moments before, there had been something to hug and hang on to and hold on to. Now, that was within. And their 2 feet were on the earth, growing roots deep to the very core. And their arms began to be like a tree, and their heads sprouted great big limbs of trees and leaves and apples too. We could take you back to the story of Adam and Eve into that great garden, but that would be another story, a hint of something that could come next. But here we are at the end of this chapter, at the end of this one tale. And when people walk by, this particular tree has been known for its golden coins, as if this belt of coins has been wrapped around and around and around and shimmers in great light and sends out these kind of sparks, these reflections out into the universe, saying, here, 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 come tell your story here, for I know a thing or two and can whisper 3 or 4 stories and rhymes and riddles as we go, as we go, as we go with the flow of this being. And that is your soul story for today.
Oh my goodness. Wow.